the 2020 Teen Warrior Summit with guest speakers Naomi Nye, Mr. I Am the Possible, and Kyle Dean Houston, and performances by Daisha Hanks, Thatcher, and Joshua Sandy, and your host, Daisha Hanks and Naomi Nye.
And we are live. Welcome to the Teen Warrior Summit. Guys, we are super excited to be here with you today. Now, the reason why we decided to create this live event is out of the desire to have the much needed discussion when it comes to teens. As we all know, there are so many teens struggling with depression, anxiety, uncontrollable thoughts and feelings, and for some, even addiction. So we gathered up 7 speakers, 3 of them you're going to be able to hear today, and 3 performers to help us with arming teens. And if you're a teen yourself, arming you with the tools needed to become your own superhero in life, right? It's time for us to be looking up to ourselves. So speaking of performers, let's go ahead and start this broadcast off right and bring out our first performer, Joshua Sandy. Joshua, thanks for being on here. You want to tell everybody where you are coming in from?
I'm Joshua Sandy, and I'm from Ohio, a little bit outside of Columbus.
All right, awesome. And the song that you're going to be playing today, is it an original song? Is it a cover?
It's a original. It's called "They're Past the Point of No Return."
Awesome. Well, we are super excited. I'm going to go ahead and play the transition, and then you'll take it away, okay?
Okay, cool.
All right.
She was packing her bag so she could run away. He was outside of her door, trying to get her to stay, but she was not going to break. He would do what it would take. He wouldn't think it's a mistake. He'd take her life away. She's past the point of no return. There's more concern, anger left to be learned. This is where she settles all her quarrels with no morals. This is where she settles all her quarrels, no remorse. Now she gets into her car. He sits in the passenger seat, holding a knife and a gun, and hits her as hard on concrete. But she is not dead as can be. But she's still on her feet. And she started to beat. And she started to see. But she runs to the street. Hit to the street. I'm telling complete. It smells a little deep. But she goes to her tree. But she picks up the gun. And he left in the tree. Pulls the tree. He's go to her feet. Go to concrete. That is wrong meat. She's past the point of no return. There's more concern. No anger left to be learned. This is where she settles all her quarrels, no morals. This is where she settles all her quarrels, no remorse. And as she sees red and blue flashing lights, she thinks it's been one hell of a night. It's been one hell of a night. It's been one hell of a night.
Dang, Joshua, you can speak fast and sing fast. You are amazing. Thank you so much for coming on here with us. All right, awesome. Well, Joshua, thanks again for being on here with us. I'm going to go ahead and take you out of the broadcast. That way we can go ahead and bring on the first speaker, okay?
Okay, cool.
All right, have a good one, Josh. All right, guys, I really am super excited for you guys to be able to hear the performances from other people, from all the speakers that are on here today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and bring out our first speaker. You guys may know him as Mr. I Am the Possible. Some know him as Mr. What. Let's go ahead and give a big round of applause for Mr. Travell C.W. Lynch. Travell, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I am so excited about rocking on this thing today. What's happening? What's going on, good people? Shout out and salute to anyone and everyone who is on this live with us this morning. I am so excited to share this moment and this time with you guys. Let's get it jumping. Let's get it going.
That's what I love. See, that is why we brought you out here first, because you always bring the energy. We love it, Travell. So you want to tell everybody where you are tuning in from really quick?
Yes, Southern California. To be more specific, I live in an area called Arcadia, about 20 minutes out of Los Angeles.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Travell, before I actually hand the floor over to you, I just want to take a minute or two to ask you a couple questions, just so everybody kind of gets a feel of who you are. So first off, what is it that you actually specialize in?
I specialize in helping people to see what they are so they can like what they see. My specialty is self-worth. I specialize in self-worth. My heart, my passion, my joy, my pleasure to serve our society, humanity on this thing called self-worth.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. So the next question that I have here for you really quick. Obviously you specialize in self-worth. So before you started kind of learning about self-worth and all of that, can you tell us about like one of your biggest challenges that you had in your life?
Yeah, my biggest challenge was being addicted to things and really placing more value on those things than I ever placed on myself, right? Self-value for me is the value that we place on oneself apart from our accomplishments and our achievements. And so it's this idea that I, in and of myself, inherently have value. I come to this world with value. And so one of my biggest challenges was being addicted to weed and to opium. And I actually, almost lost my life over this addiction when I was at, 20 years old, again, just out there, not having any idea or sense of my self-worth. Just a really quick story. I found myself trapped in this alleyway in the back of a car, and I had two guns pointed at me, one from the right side window and one literally pressed to the side of my head. And the guy, I had just purchased like an ounce of marijuana. It cost me like $120, right? And the guy, all he wanted was my weed. And he asked me 3 times. He says, give me your weed 3 times. Now, he said something else, but I'll keep it clean for this broadcast. But he said something else, and I told him no 3 different times. On that third no, Daisha, he pulled the trigger, and I could hear that hammer pop back in the chamber. Thank God nothing came out. But to me, that when I look back in, at my life, and I look back at my story, that to me told me like that was my lowest of lows, that I was willing to trade my very life because he wanted to kill me. He attempted to kill me. And by a miracle, by God's love and grace, however that plays out, nothing came out of that chamber. But the fact that I was willing to die for a bag of weed, something that I went on and smoked hours later, I was willing to give my life for that, right? And so that's why I specialize in it, because I like to say, I teach self-worth because I know what it means to not have any. I know what it means to be ready and willing to die for something that grows on a tree that comes out of the ground. So that was really, the point in my life where I knew I was at the lowest point in my life.
That is scary, but also amazing because you live to be able to tell that story. Like, I'm sure there's many people that have gone through that situation of wanting to risk their lives for something so small. So knowing what you know now, obviously with having self-worth and knowing that you're put on this earth already being enough, would you have handled that situation differently? And if so, how would you have handled it?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, looking back, one, I wouldn't have even been addicted, right? I wouldn't have even been dependent on weed and opium to even get through my day. Because if I understood my value and I understood my worth, then there would be higher standards, right, that I would have set for my life. And there would have been certain things, elements that I wouldn't have even allowed to be a part of my life. So I think that would have cut it off right at the root. Like I wouldn't have never been addicted to it, let alone so dependent on it. But obviously, if I knew my worth, if I knew my value then, the first time he would have asked me, or if I'm ever in that situation again, a guy puts a gun in my head, you can have anything I have. because I want my life. I value my life. I want to continue to live and to, hopefully, prayerfully add value to other people. So how would I handle it differently? Take whatever I got, man. But spare me my life, because I want to continue to live, because I now can see the value and the worth that I have in this world.
I love that, guys.
Yeah.
And I really hope that you're listening, guys. Just that shift in the mindset of knowing your worth can make the biggest difference. So, Travell, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to you. That way you can get on here and get on with what you came on here to do. So, guys, I hope you guys have a pen and paper out. Let's go ahead and get into Travell. I'm going to go ahead and do the transition video, and then you'll go ahead and take over.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, what's going on, guys? Again, Travell C.W. Lynch. They call me Mr. What. I am the founder of a company called I Am the Possible. And I specialize, guys. I help people to see their worth, to see their value in this world, right? Apart from any of their achievements, any of their accomplishments. And you may be in that place right now where you have pressure on your life. You may have peer pressure. You may have just your own personal pressure that you're putting on yourself to do things just right, to get things perfect, to accomplish a lot or to achieve a lot. And none of those things are wrong, guys. But I'm here to tell you that, and I'm I represent this person that, because I didn't know my worth, I didn't know my value. For many years, I struggled with perfectionism and just putting just tons of weight and pressure on myself to get things just right so that I can live up to this ideal of myself. And whenever I would fall short, I would judge myself. I would be critical of myself. And I would self-hate and I would self-deflate. And so today I want to share some things with you that I believe and pray that if you would entertain these thoughts, adapt these thoughts, adopt these thoughts into your teenager, or you're a parent. If you're a parent on here rocking this morning, doesn't matter who you are. If I believe that if you would receive these two concepts into your life, then it would change your outlook on yourself dramatically. Okay. So the very first thing is, and actually before I get into those ideas, I want to ask you guys a question. You guys can't see everything down here, but I got this little pot of dirt here, right? And on top of that pot of dirt, let me kind of tip my camera down here just a little bit so you can see what's going on here. I got this gold, right? Got this little block of gold. I want to ask you guys a question. All right. And you can put your answers in the comments. All right. This is an interactive moment. Right. Please don't please don't be afraid to comment. Please chop it up with me. OK, as I go through this. So my first question is, what do you think you and this block of gold have in common? I'll take a few seconds, just a few seconds. But you and this block of gold, hopefully I'm holding it to where you guys can see it. What would you say you and this block of gold have in common? All right. I think I can see comments if they're coming in. All right. I take a few seconds. Oh, so over here, let me switch over here. All right. They are both solid. Yes, you are solid. What else? What else? Give me, I'll take one more minute. You and this block of gold. What do you and this block of gold have in common? Well, the first thing that I want, shiny. Yes. We definitely can be shiny. Yes. So check this out, guys. I want you to consider this thought. I'm gonna take this block of gold. Now, if you know anything about gold, where is gold, right? It's normally, let me kind of share this a little bit. It's normally down in the dirt, covered up, right? That's where gold originates. So the first thing that you and this gold have in common is that you first must be discovered. I believe that the greatest form of self-development, and some of you guys, whether you're a teen or a parent, you're looking to develop yourself, you're looking to get over some things, some challenges in your life, you're looking to improve in some areas of your life. Well, I believe that the greatest form of you developing is you discovering. And so gold, at some point in time, it was covered up just like this. Whether it's a gold mine or it was in the ground, wherever it was, at some point, it was yet to be discovered. So you and this gold have to be discovered, okay? You have to discover yourself. You have to discover who you really are, what you really are, why you really are. Okay. If you are dealing with low self-esteem, I tell people all the time, it's not that you have low self-esteem, it's that you have low exploration. See, this is a journey. It's about exploring and discovering what's underneath, right? Many times life can cover you up with dirt and all types of stuff, lies and situations and problems and circumstances, right? That are unpleasant, right? They just cover us up, but there is hidden treasure underneath it all. So the number one thing is you and this goal have to be discovered. Number two, you have to be determined. Now I'm going to put this down, and I don't mean determined in how we say determination, keep going, keep fighting, keep pressing. I'm talking about determination in when gold was first discovered. Think about this. When gold was first discovered, we had to determine its worth. We had to determine, someone had to say, this is worth something. Now, today we make earrings out of it, right? Gold teeth out of it, right? Jewelry out of it, right? Now, I'm more of a platinum and silver man myself, but those who love gold, they have all types of jewelry. They put it on cars. It's an infinite amount of things that we utilize gold for, and it trades on the stock market, right? Think about that. A block of gold like this, what would this be worth? Well, we had to determine that this block of gold was worth something. And I'm here to tell you today that you must determine that you have value. You must determine that you are worth something. You can't wait for your parents. You can't wait for the teacher at school. You can't wait for the police officer to tell you. You can't wait for the librarian. You can't wait. I don't know what your context is, but we can't wait for other people to determine our worth in this world, because many times we are just misunderstood. People don't know us. People don't understand us. Just like when gold was first discovered, maybe they didn't know what it was. Maybe they didn't know what it could be utilized for. So maybe some people overlooked it, but others, they came to discover its value and what it could be used for. And in the same way, I want you to look at your life like this gold bar. You are worth something. You can be used to do some amazing things with in this world. You just first have to discover yourself and then determine for yourself that you are worth so much in this world. Now, I'm going to share with you a few things, one idea, just a few things to add on to that in the next few minutes that's going to help you to determine, right? To determine your worth in this world. I want you to keep that visual in your mind. I'm going to show it one more time. That's you. That's us. That's me, right? If you just heard my interview, right? That was me. I was covered up by the cares of life, by the issues and all of the junk in life. I was covered up when that gun was put to my head. I was covered up. I didn't discover myself. I didn't know myself. I didn't see myself. I didn't love myself, right? So I get it. I know. So I want you to keep that visual in your mind, okay? You first must be discovered, then you must be determined. Now, before I get into these things, again, I want to ask you another question. The light bulb. Yes. What do you and this light bulb have in common? Maybe you can put it in the chat again. What do you and this light bulb have in common? Give it a few seconds. We both need energy. You absolutely right. We definitely need energy. Ideas. Bingo. Yes, this is the universal symbol for ideas, right? You ever watch a cartoon or you see somebody, in a movie or something like that? Sometimes they'll put their little light bulb over their head, right? Really can't see it in the camera, but you put the little light bulb over their head, right? And they'll say, bing, I've got an idea. Listen, guys, 20 years ago, I'm 43, 20 years ago, when I was 23, my idea of me, right? My life changed when my idea of me changed 23 years ago, guys. And I'm going to do for you what was done for me 23 years ago. 23 years ago, someone came into my life and they told me what I was. They told me what I was. I won't get into the story too deep, but really quick, I was given an opportunity to share a message. And after that message, it was about a 15-minute message. And after me sharing that message, a gentleman walked up to me. He looked me in the eye and he said, Travell, you are a teacher. That's all he said. And he smiled at me. From that moment on, sorry, not 23 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm sorry. 20 years ago. He said, Travell, you are a teacher. Bing, a new idea about me came rushing into my life. I had never thought, I had never imagined, I never even came into no idea that I was created to be this teacher, this communicator, someone that had information and that I can convey that information. But he said, Travell, you are a teacher. And I never looked back. My life has never been the same. All it took was an idea. See, I want to share with you this morning that you are, let me move this out of the way. You are an idea. If you have pen, you have pad, I want you to write that down. I want you to write that down. I am an idea. See, you didn't just show up in the world. You didn't just come from anywhere. You were created by a creator. You are an idea. You began just like any other idea. You began in the mind of your creator. Your creator thought about you, strategized about you, pondered. How would you look? Where would you live? What would you do? What would you go through? Right? What would you overcome in this world? Right? He thought about you, planned for you, strategized for you. The idea began in the very thoughts and the very imagination of your creator. Think about anything that's been created. I'm talking into a microphone right now. At some point in time, this microphone did not exist, but it started in the mind of a creator. Whoever created the microphone, it started in their minds. And why did they get this spark of genius? Just like you're a spark of genius. How did they get this spark of genius? Well, this is how. Every idea represents one of two things: a solution to a problem, an answer to a question. Every idea. And I want you to think about that for your life. You are a solution to a problem, an answer to a question. That's what your very life represents. Just like this light bulb represents ideas, your life represents an idea. You are a solution to a problem. You are an answer to a question. That's why you exist. See, I specialize in this thing called self-worth, to understand that you have a worth beyond anything that you've ever done. Right? Maybe you've had a lot of failures in your life. Maybe you've tried some things and it didn't go through. Maybe you had a dream or a goal and you kind of started, but it kind of fell through. Things didn't, pan out the way that you wanted it to. I want you to know that you're not a failure. You may fail at something. You may not hit the mark. You may not achieve everything that you want to achieve, but you are not your failures. You are not a failure. Failures are events. You are a literal experience. Get that, guys. I'm just sharing ideas with you because my life changed the moment the idea of who I am and what I am changed. And if you don't hear it from anywhere else, if you never hear it again, I want to be the one to share with you that you're an idea. Now, I want you to take some things into consideration. I want you to take, number one, your struggles. I want you to take your struggles into consideration. Again, these are tools to help you to begin to understand your worth in this world, to not have to go through the things that I had to go through, having guns put to my head and almost dying over something that's worthless. I want to save you the trouble. These are questions that I never asked myself, but I want you to ask yourself, what are my struggles? What are those things that I struggle with? Those things that make me cry, those things that get in my way, those things that bother me when I see it happening in society. Those are clues, breadcrumbs to the solution that you were created to be. See, wherever you see problems and they kind of like pull you and kind of call you and they kind of do something in your heart, I want you to pay attention to those struggles and those problems. Maybe you're addicted to something right now. And the more I became free and the more I saw my worth and value, the more I was liberated and set free of those things that I was addicted to. And now I help other people to not have to be addicted, to not have to be dependent on things like drugs and alcohol, because now they see their value and their worth. And so I want you to consider, what are your struggles? Number two, I want you to consider your strengths. What are those things, those gifts, those talents, those skills? I want you to look those words up. What is a gift? A gift is something that has been freely given to you. You do it, and you do it like no one else. You're very good at it. People compliment you on it. You do it without even thinking. It's just unconscious. You're just gifted at something. You just do something really, really well. You don't even know how you got to doing that thing so well, but you just seem to do it so, so well. What is that gift? That talent, that thing that you are able to then take your gift in doing and then channel it through some sort of career path or business structure, right? So for me, my gift was being able to make very difficult things that other people really can't quite grasp or really can't understand. I can make those things very easy to understand. So that's a gift of mine, but then I channel that gift through this teaching. Through my writing. I've written several books, and maybe some of you guys have dreams of writing books, right? I speak and so I teach. And so that's a talent that I have, the ability to communicate. Well, I want you to think about yours. What are your gifts? You do it naturally. You've never gone to school for it. Your mom, your dad, no one ever had to teach you how to do it. Your talent. It is a way of doing something, right? Taking that gift and pushing it through the channel of writing or the talent of writing, the talent of speaking. And then lastly, your skill. What are your skills? What are those special things that you can do, right? So for example, for me, I can write training materials, right? That's a skill, right? I can not only communicate, make things make sense and write, but I can also write things to help people to put the pieces to the puzzle together, right? In a very systematic and smooth way. I'm sharing my life so that you might, think about your own life. So what are your struggles and what are your strengths? Those are all things that you will utilize and bring together to help you to be the contribution that you were created to be. That's the last idea that I'll share with you. You are a contribution. You weren't created to just make a contribution in this world. I want you to know that you were created to literally be a contribution in this world. See, I'm just throwing ideas out at you. I'm not giving you a whole bunch of textbook stuff because I understand. And this was my life story. This is my truth. I didn't get a whole lot of education. I dropped out of college. I didn't get a whole lot of book smart education. All of my grind, all of my hustle, everything that brought me from where I was willing to give my life for a bag of weed to now today helping people to see their value in the world. My whole story started with an idea. You'll find a way. You'll read the books. You'll watch the videos. You'll connect. You'll get into communities. You will do the things necessary if you have the right idea about yourself. You are a contribution to the betterment of our society. So think about those things. You are as precious and as valuable as gold. You, just like this light bulb, you represent an idea like no other. Ideas change the world. And the idea called you just put your name right there. The idea underscore your name goes right there. The idea called you will change this world. Once you begin to see and to understand your worth in this world. You are a solution to a problem. You are an answer to a question. There's a question out there in the world. There's a problem out there in the world, and your life has been sent and designed. You are a specialist. That's why I say I am a self-worth specialist, because we all specialize in something very specific and something very significant and something very special. And I want you guys to know it. Listen, guys, the last thing that I'll share is one of my quotes from my new book. And I kind of wrote it down over here so that I wouldn't misquote it because I haven't practiced it enough, right? But I want you to understand something. And if you have a pen and pad, go ahead and write this down. The problem we're most clearly able to see. The problem we're most clearly able to see is often the clearest indication of the solution we were created to be. I'll say it one more time. The problem that we're able to clearly see, the problem that we are able to clearly see, we can see it. No one else sees it like we see it. It pulls at your heartstrings. It makes you cry, right? It keeps you up at night. It troubles you when you see it happening in society. It almost calls to you that problem that you can't shake, that you can't ignore, that you can't get around. That thing right there tugging at your heart, that thing that matters to you, that thing that you want to be a champion of and you want to be a crusader for, that cause in the world, that change in our society that you want to be a part of, that thing right there, that problem that you're able to see, that is the clearest indication of the solution that your life, bing, your life was created to be. I want to leave you guys with that. Who's ever coming on, Naomi or Day, who's ever next. Hopefully I timed it just right. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I thought I would have my timer set, but I didn't set it. But I pray that I've added value. I pray that I've said something. I just wanted to flow with you guys this morning, right? I just wanted to flow because I didn't want to be too scripted today. I just wanted to say some things that'll catch you at the right point in your life and that'll mean something and that will bring life right into your heart and into your thinking concerning you. That's my story. That's how it worked for me. And I just believe that it'll work for some of you guys as well. God bless you.
Man, I love that, Travell. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on and share all of that with us today, sharing your vulnerability, sharing, like you said, just the flow of the naturalness that you have. I mean, it clearly shows every single time that you speak, this was what you were created to do, is help people see what they are. So thank you again for being on here with us.
Thank you. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring out our next speaker. Guys, I really hope that you did have a pen and paper out. Like, I get chills and goosebumps every single time that I hear Travell talk because he's always speaking from the heart, right? He truly cares about you finding what you are and really changing your life for the better, right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and bring out our next speaker. I have known her for a while. Our other host on this broadcast today, Miss Naomi Nye. Naomi, thanks for being here with us.
How you guys doing? Hi, Warriors. I'm so happy to be here. Hey, Daisha. Awesome.
Hey.
Awesome.
Can't believe that we were able to get this all completed. So I want to be able to ask you a couple questions just like we did with Travell before I let you go ahead and take over. So obviously, just like we asked Travell, what is it that you specialize in?
Well, I specialize in helping people control their mind. Okay, have the right mindset so that they are able to achieve the things that they want in life. Because sometimes we think that it's the world that doesn't let us get what we want, but it's us. It is us who are stopping ourselves from everything in life that we want. And that's what happened to me. And that's why I want to help others do the same.
I love it. I love it. So before we jump into you teaching us a little bit about the mind and the body, can you share with everyone, just like Travell did, like what is it that you struggled the most with before you started learning about the body and the mind?
Well, yeah, I'll try to like tell my story in like a few minutes, like my whole life story, but just so you guys can understand, I was born in a very difficult, environment, an abusive environment, and I was also born with a club foot. So I had to have a lot of surgeries and a lot of procedures growing up, and that pretty much dictated my life. And there got to a point in my life that I thought that was over, right? I was in my early 30s. I was finally on my own. I was living my life. I was successful. I was happy. I was in a relationship. And then the unexpected happened. I found myself sick and having to go a series of surgeries again. And I found myself in a stint of 6 years undergoing 5 surgeries that had me completely bedridden. And, I tried to get myself up again. And then a couple of years later, poof, in like 2015, I got hit again with, you have to have a hip transplant. And at that point in my life, what happens to all of us? I didn't have the mindset that I have today. And I broke. And what happened to me was really bad. You see, I had already gone through those years that, we had gone through all our savings. My ex was now primarily taking care of the household, and I was feeling like a burden. And I was feeling worthless because, of course, we all have wounds from our childhood. We all have these unmet needs, right? So I already had these feelings that I was unaware of, of low self-worth. And so here comes this situation, and I broke. And the funny thing is, when you don't have the mindset, you don't see a way out. You see, you don't think that you can change. You think that this is it. This is the way it is. And I thought, oh my God, this is the way my life is going to be forever. I have no control. And so I did what many people do. You know, one day my girlfriend went to work. I got a bottle of pills. I was literally on like 48 pills. I was on Dilaudid. I was on Oxycontin. I was on Flexerol, Zoloft, Seroquel, Xanax, everything you could possibly imagine. It was a cocktail, right? So I got all the pills and I just took them because I didn't see a way out. I didn't see a way out. And of course, thank the universe, just like with Travell, we obviously had something that we were supposed to do, right? That we were meant to do, because I'm here. And so that is what took for me to literally like sit there and think, okay, well, that didn't work. I'm not going anywhere. So now what do I do? And that is where my journey started. And that's why I'm here today.
That is so cool. So, I mean, obviously that was a lot of information. You had to go through a lot of struggles, but during that like period of time, because it sounds like during that time when you were taking the pills, that was probably like the hardest moment where you just completely broke and were ready to give up. Knowing what you know now, how would you have handled that situation differently?
Well, the first thing I would have known that I do have worth, and that nothing lasts forever, and that if we know anything about life, is that life is full of challenges. That's what life is about, and that life is about overcoming the challenges. You know the saying that says, it's not what happens to you, but how you handle it. And I learned this the hard way again and again and again and again, and it was not until later in life that I sat there and looked at every single challenge in my life that I started learning the lessons, that I saw the value. So what I would have done differently is, one, I would have not taken all those pills, because I would have known that I have control over my life. That just because someone says do this or do that, that is it. I would have known that. And then I would have known that this too will pass. Just like everything in life, it will pass. And that there is a lesson and there is a reason, because obviously, here I am today. Maybe those challenges that I felt, that were so hard, were happening because I was supposed to do something, or I was supposed to help other people with their challenges someday. And so that is why, I wanted to create this summit. And I know that's why you and I got together, because you and I talk about this a lot. And we talk about the fact that, no one teaches us. No one teaches us how our mind works. No one teaches us how our brain, how our body works, and all together, and why we feel the way we feel. And more importantly, then we could do something about
it. I love it. Guys, I really hope that you guys have a pen and paper out right now. I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to Naomi now. Naomi, thank you so much for being vulnerable with us and just sharing a little bit about your story. I know that's not always easy to do. So I'm going to go ahead and play the transition video and let you take over from here.
So guys, I'm so happy that you're here with us, warriors. And I just want to ask you guys a question. If I were to tell you that life was a game, right? It was a game, the same as any other game, and it had players, and it had levels, right? And it had rules, and it had tools. And more importantly, it had a prince or a princess with the castle, with the pot of gold and everything. If you win, what would you say? I know you guys would say, you're crazy. That's not possible. But it is. Guys, life is a game, and there are rules. The problem is that nobody teaches us the rules. And that is why we have put this summit together for you guys, so that you guys could have the tools so that you can be happy in life, so that you don't have to spend your life pressing that snooze button 100 times in the morning, because you're actually looking forward to your life. Now, I didn't have these rules. I didn't know them. I didn't have these skills in my teens. And the truth is, I didn't have them in my 20s or my 30s. No. And like I said before in the introduction, this is why I ended up taking my life, because I ended up trying to take my life. I'm sorry, because I'm still here. But I tried and I tried and I wanted out simply because I didn't see a solution, because I didn't see a way out. And you know why? Because I didn't know these rules. I was depressed and I was like everybody. Oh my God, I had excuses, I had fears, I had worries, I had shame. I was full of insecurity and the negative self talk, that negative self talk that we all have. And I just wanted it all to stop. And the truth is that I had tried medicine, like I said before. I had tried taking medicine. I had even seen therapists, right? But the talking wasn't helping and the pills helped, but they didn't help me make the changes that I wanted to make in my life. And I did try things, I did, but it just felt extremely, extremely hard. And it didn't feel right. I felt weird and I got overwhelmed. And the truth is that when I was laying in that bed, the only thing that I was asking myself in the hospital was, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? You see, I don't know. I lost my courage, I thought I had lost my courage. I don't know if I had dropped it or, threw it away in the trash can or something, but it was gone. I had no motivation. And when I would get online and I would watch other people living their lives and doing the things that I wanted to do, well, it would just make me more depressed and I would just isolate myself even more. There was a lot of things that I didn't know. And everything stemmed from the fact that one, I didn't know myself. Two, I didn't know my mind, my body, my brain, or how it worked. And three, I didn't know these skills. I didn't know the rules of the game. Now, because we don't know these rules, because we're not taught these rules, most of us end up taking on habitual habits. Okay. Now, these habitual habits, they're actually called habitual rules. And what they are is they're the habits that we perform without even thinking, regardless of the fact if they're good for us, regardless of the fact if they're going to help us in the future. And the truth is that we don't do these things on purpose. You see, we're not taught how our brains works. We're not taught these rules. So what we're going to do today is we are going to talk about how your brain works. And then we're going to talk about these behavioral patterns and these habits that we form in life. And the first thing that I want to say is there's this myth about us being born and that we have this mini brain. And the truth is that our brain is exactly the same in childhood and adulthood, except for one thing. That the infant brain is much more powerful. This means that it has trillions of more cells and neural connections. And it needs this, guys. It needs this in order to perform all these motor and cognitive functions that are what are going to help you learn how to talk, learn languages, learn how to walk, learn how to tie your shoes, learn how to ride your bike, learn how to memorize facial expressions, learn how to recognize people, places, and things. This is what it's for. Now, all of these functions require a huge amount of processing power. And this is the reason why children sleep so much, guys, because the way that we work is that our brain processes all the information that we collect. It processes it and it stores it through the night while we sleep. Now, I bet you guys have been asking yourself, well, okay, so why is it that it's easier for us to learn something like a language or how to play an instrument than when we're young, but it's not that easy when we're getting older? Well, it has to do with all of this. Not only is our brain absorbing all of this information and we have all of these neural connections, right, going on at the same time, but our infant brain is like a sponge. It's a sponge that's absorbing everything around us, and it is also in an alpha state. Now, our brain produces several waveforms, right? While we're awake and we're asleep. And this alpha state is one of the states that we're in sleep. But this is also a state that we use when we're watching a movie, right? Or we're being hypnotized. And in this state, we are highly suggestible and we retain a lot of information. So this means that, like I said before, you guys are absorbing everything in your environment. That means that everything that you hear, from your parents, the television, the news, the radio, billboards, it's going in. Now, the problem with this is that, like I said before, there is no filter. We don't have a security guard in our brain, right? That says, hey, no, I don't like that thought. That's not a good one. We're not letting it in. No, when we're children, we're in that state where we're just learning, absorbing, and creating these neural connections. So what happens? Sometimes we absorb things, beliefs, thoughts, and habits that do not serve us. The truth is that we have developed our beliefs, the way we are, most of our personality traits, our thoughts, and our habits by the age of 7 years old. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't let a 7-year-old make decisions for me, right? But the truth is that that's what most of us are doing. We're letting our 7-year-old self tell us what to do. And it goes back to everything that I've been saying before, right? Now, I know what you guys are thinking. I know you guys are thinking, well, that's fine. Okay, so that happens when we're kids. But what about now? Now I want to be happy. Now I want different habits. I want to do different things. So why can't I just go like this and do it? And like I said before, it goes back to those developmental years from the ages of 0 to 7 that we're learning these habits, right? Okay, so the way that it works is that this time your brain is forming these neural connections, and it does this by repeated practice. Whether you're seeing something or you're hearing something or you're practicing something, it solidifies these connections, right? And it creates and it forms what's called either a habit, a pattern, or a loop. And then what the brain does is it takes it, it seals it, and it sends it to the back of our brain so that now we can focus our energy and focus our attention on learning something new. Now, the problem with this is, like I said before, we're picking up habits that sometimes do not serve us. And let's talk about that. So let's say that we're living in a home where your parents fight a lot, right? There's a lot of violence in the home, or maybe there's drinking, or something else is going on, or maybe not on purpose, but your parents are fighting a lot about on you. Maybe they are taking it on you. And the truth is, guys, don't be mad at your parents either, because like I said before, no one gave them the rules either. Okay, nobody gave them the rules. And the thing is that besides that, when we're young, we don't know. We don't know that what's going on in the house is not our fault. That even if our parents are angry, it has nothing to do with us. And even when they fight at us, most of the time, they're not really even that mad at us. They're just unhappy with their own lives. But we don't know this. And like Travell said, we take these things and we absorb them and we make them part of our personalities, right? We make them part of who we are. This is how we actually form our personality, all our habits and our traits as a person. So now, what can we do? What can we do? I know that we try to change, right? I know that you have probably said, you know what, Monday's coming and I am going to start a diet, right? And we're so pumped up, and then Monday comes and we can't make ourselves do what we want to do. Now, why does this happen? Well, it happens because of what I said, because of these habits that have been formed. And now it's going to take a little bit more work from you to break them. And the fact is that these habits have become such a part of our everyday life that we do them on autopilot. Okay. Now, autopilot mode is when you do things without any conscious thought. Okay. And these unconscious traits, habits, and beliefs, this is what leaves us feeling stuck, right? Because here we are thinking, well, I'm lazy, or, some people say I'm a procrastinator or I'm a worrier. And we think this is the way we are and we can't change. But that is not true. You don't have a problem with worrying. You are not a worrier and you are not a procrastinator. You have a habit of thinking these thoughts. That is what it is. Okay? Now, another thing that happens to us is because of this, because of these feelings, we're feeling down, right? And then on top of that, when we don't get the attention or the love or the motivation or the energy or the support from other people, just like Travell was saying, when we don't get those things, when we don't outsource those things, we end up feeling worse about ourselves. And I want to explain to you why this happens. I mean, think about it. When you were a child, you had every single thing given to you. I mean, we were fed, we were loved, we were talked to, we were dressed. And so, of course, now it comes to this point in our lives where we have become dependent. And so we become dependent of other people telling us that we're good, that we're enough, that we're lovable. But it is time for us to develop these skills and do it for ourselves. We have to become independent. Okay? Now, remember, it's all about the thoughts you think. It's all about the thoughts you think. And it's a decision, Like I said, we have these habits, we want to change, right? So it's a matter of making that decision. And now you're probably like, well, okay, so then I just go like this and I say I'm going to change and it's done. Well, yes and no, because remember the patterns and remember these patterns that you have developed and then now you need to change. Well, let me explain to you how this works. You develop these patterns, okay? You do them by decision. You do them unconsciously. And you have so much going on in your brain. To start out with, guys, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and we make 5 to 7,000 decisions a day. That is what our lives are comprised of, okay? For example, we spend all our day like, do I wake up late? Do I hit the snooze button? Do I send that message? Do I send that text? Well, what if it offends her? What if she doesn't want to hear it, but I still want her to know how I feel? And it's all this battle in our head. We're kind of like Spiegel, Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. It's like, but I want the candy. And it's like, no, we cannot have the candy. But we want it, please. And it's like, no, because we will get fat. And it's like a constant battle and struggle in our head. Decisions. But our brain, guys, it doesn't care. That's why it'll motivate you to have that candy. That's why it'll motivate you to do that thing, because our brain does not care about our dreams. It doesn't care about our hopes. It doesn't care about any of that. Our brain cares about 3 things. It cares about our survival. It cares about our procreation. And it cares about conserving energy. That's it. So it is your job. It is your job to not let your feelings, but you dictate what you do. You have to take control of your mind, and you are the one that has to make that decision and not let your feelings stand in the way. Okay? Now, we should begin, if you want to change, by changing the biggest habit that humans have. And do you know what that one is? It is our thinking patterns. Like I said before, guys, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And the truth is, we shouldn't even pay attention to these thoughts. As a matter of fact, we should treat our thoughts like farts. It's like, poop, there it goes. I'm glad it's gone, and forget about it. Okay? Seriously, that is what we should do. And I know that it's not easy because it was super hard for me to change my patterns in the beginning. Okay? It was really hard. And the reason why it's hard, guys, it is not your fault. There is a reason for it. And it is because our brain is primarily negative. Exactly. It is primarily negative. And the reason why it's negative is because we might be living in this new modern world, right? But guys, this world has been around for a couple of 100 years, but this brain that we have in our heads, this prehistoric brain has been around for thousands of years. Okay. And this brain is negative, and it focuses on being sensitive, attuned, and negative stimuli. And it does this why? Think about it. When we were around thousands of years ago, we were in nature and exposed, and there were predators. So this is why we based everything on our stimuli. And this is why our brain has that negative bias. And I'm going to give you an example of what we mean by this, okay? Take rejection. Okay, why does rejection feel so bad? Right? Why does it hurt so much when we all get rejected, right? I mean, what's the big deal, right? Hey, do you want to go out? No. Hey, do you want to dance? No. Hey, do you want my number? No. What's the big deal, right? It's no big deal. The reason why it's such a big deal is because back then, thousands of years ago, us being in a tribe was probably what our survival depended on. If we separated from the pack, if we separated from the village, the tribe, well, we would be exposed and we could die. So our survival depended on our connectiveness. This is why these things that today we don't understand why they make such big trauma in our heads is because we are dealing with a prehistoric brain in a modern world. Okay, this is the reason why. So what we need to do is just train our brain, okay, to think differently. And how do we do this? We do this by changing our story. Okay, like I said before, stop saying that you're a worrier or a procrastinator or that you're lazy, because you're not. It is a lie. It is just as big a lie as you thinking that you can't be someone, that you can't do something, or that you can't have something. It is just a story, and I'll prove it to you, okay? Do you know how many percentage of people that win the lottery lose it? I'll tell you. 70% of people who win the lottery lose it in less than 3 years. And why is that? Simply because of their mindset. Okay, that's what happened to me, guys. It was my mindset. I had a fixed mindset. I thought back then that this is how it was. This is how my world was going to be, that I couldn't change, that I had no fear, that I had lost my courage, that I was depressed, and that I was stuck, and that I was going to be this way forever. But it's not. It's not. This is why we cannot, like I said again, let our feelings dictate our actions. We have to train our brain and our body so that it does the stuff that we want, and so that it doesn't end up controlling us. Remember, guys, a thought is just an opinion. It is just a thought. And like I said before, we have 60 to 80,000 of them a day. Okay? And it might take a little work in the beginning. Yes, it will. But remember that your brain is a muscle. It is a muscle just like any other muscle in your body. And so just like we go to the gym and we exercise and we work out our muscles and we get pumped up, you have to do the same in order to develop a strong brain. Okay? We just need to start looking at our lives like a video game, guys. Seriously, when you're playing a video game and you lose, or you're having a hard time and you're being challenged, you say, screw this, I'm done, I'm not playing this again. No, you accept the challenge. You enjoy it, right? You enjoy the challenge, and you keep on and you keep on and you keep on till you win. And just because you lose and you put it down one day, it doesn't mean that tomorrow you can't pick it up. You can pick up that joystick 1,000 times and practice. Guys, life is the same. We have to start looking at our life like that and think about it. Think about it. You'll play a video game and you'll have a good time, yeah. But is it going to bring huge rewards into your life? Is it going to bring you happiness? And is it going to give you the things you want? No. However, working on yourself will. And imagine if you would work on yourself, all the things that you could achieve. And I'm going to tell you, every successful person you know has practiced these skills. Every successful person you know learned the rules to the game of life. Think of someone you admire. Just think of someone you admire right now. And I can guarantee that that person failed more times than they succeeded to get to where they are. We need to be willing to put in that effort and do the work, because after all, guys, what is more important than you? What is more important than you and more important than your life? Nothing. And just think of the rewards that you're going to get. So start with your thinking patterns. And how do you do that? How do you rewire your brain? How do you change these habits? Well, it starts by our thinking, by becoming aware of our thoughts. And this is why writing is so important. And I suggest that from today on, you grab that journal and you start writing things down and you start asking yourself questions. Yes, ask yourself, what do I want? What really makes me happy? When am I the happiest? What do I enjoy doing? What things am I good at? Okay, what sparks my interest the most? And you will be surprised of what you will find. All right, guys? And that is what awareness means. And you will develop it more and you will become more aware and you will get better. Just like you get better at the game, you will get better at the game of life. And with this, guys, I will let you go. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your summit. Thank you.
Awesome. Naomi, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing a little bit about the mind and the body. Guys, like she was saying, we really just got to practice our awareness, right? It's just like a video game. We got to practice on a daily basis until we get better and better. And then it just seems like second nature for us to be who we want inside of our life. So Naomi, thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and take you out of the broadcast and bring on Thatcher.
Bye.
All right, guys. So I hope you guys were taking notes with Naomi talking on there. She gave a lot of information and value. And just a reminder for those of you that bought the platinum package for the Teen Warrior Summit, you will be receiving a workbook and a free training video from each one of the speakers that you'll be listening to throughout this 2-day event. So let's go ahead and take a little break and have one of our performers come on here. Thatcher, how is it going? Thanks for being here with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So you want to just introduce yourself and tell everybody where you are tuning in from.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm tuning in from California. My name's Thatcher Horrocks. I'm 15 years old. I've been playing guitar for almost 2 years now, and it's my passion, really. I play guitar and just music in general.
That's awesome. And what you're going to be playing today, is it an original song? Is it a cover?
It's a cover. So I'm doing a cover. It's called Slow Dancing in a Burning Room by John Mayer. It's like my favorite song.
Awesome. How awesome. All right. Well, I'm super excited to hear this. I'm sure everybody is as well. So I'll go ahead and hop off here, play the transition video, and then you'll take it away.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Not a silly little moment. It's not the storm before the calm. This is the deep and dying breath of this love that we've been working along. Can't seem to hold you like I want to, so I can feel you in my arms. Nobody's gonna come and save you. We pulled too many false alarms. We're going down. can see it too. We're going down, and you know that we're doomed, my dear. We're slow dancing in a burning room. I was the one you always dreamed of. You are the one I tried to draw. How they say it's nothing to me. Baby, you're the only light I ever saw. I'll make the most of all the sadness. You'll be a witch because you can. You try to hit me just to hurt me, so you leave me feeling dirty. You can't understand. We're going down, and you can see it too. We're going down. Oh, and you know that we're doomed, my dear. We're slow dancing in a burning room. Go cry about it, why don't you? Go cry about it, why don't you? Go cry about it, why don't you? My dear, we're slow dancing in a burning room. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. That's all I can say, Thatcher. You've only been playing for 2 years?
Guitar, yeah. I've been singing all my life.
That is crazy. Guys, take notes, right? I mean, he's only been playing for 2 years and is able to play that well. Like, I've taught myself how to play guitar like 5-6 years ago, and I can't even do half of what you can do, Thatcher. So thank you so much for being here with us today. I can't thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one now. All right, guys. So, man, that gave me chills. If you guys haven't already, make sure to go look up Thatcher on YouTube. I'm sure he is all over the social media platforms. Definitely look him up, and that way you guys can listen to his music as well. So, we were supposed to be having Kyle on here. Naomi, I'm not sure. Do you want to continue on? Kyle was not on here with us, so.
Yes, let me send him a message.
All right.
I sent him the link, and it was a go. So let's see if he will show up in a minute. There we go.
All right, there we are. There's Kyle. Okay. All right, Naomi, I'm going to go and drop you out here. So, guys, we are almost done with this broadcast. We have one more speaker and one more performance. So I'm going to go ahead and bring out our last speaker here. Kyle, thank you so much for being here with
look at all the
us.
energy. I love it. I love this. How you doing? How you doing?
Doing amazing. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I don't have the cool background that you do, but I am ready to go. I promise.
Well, we're super excited for you to be here. So real quick, can you just introduce yourself and tell everybody where you are tuning in from?
Yes, no problem. Well, my name is Kyle Houston, and more than anything, I'm a loving husband and a loving father who's turned into some sort of a best-selling author, right? And I am coming right now from Palm Harbor, Florida. I have a home out in California, but I mostly live right here in Palm Harbor, California. I'm sorry, Florida.
That is awesome.
Did I say California? I meant Florida.
I think you did.
I am in America. Yes, if that boils it down.
We appreciate you being here with us, Kyle. I love that we have people from all over the world. So just so people can kind of get a feel of who you are before I hand the floor over to you, what exactly is it that you specialize in?
Sure. Well, let me just say this. My discipline is sales. And part of my story, you're going to find out that I have a pretty cool comeback story, and I have a unique skill set for growing startup companies. So sales is my jam. But what I do now is I help people understand mindset. I help people understand what it takes to get unstuck. And I do my best. And this is really, really, I think, kind of a shift in the way people are thinking, is most people try to throw all these negative emotions out. And what they're doing is they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because a lot of times that's gasoline on the fire. And that's how you create superpower. So I try to get people to understand that there is value in shame. There is value in regret and all of those things. It's just something that can't paralyze you. And that's what I specialize in. And hopefully, that explains itself, but I think a lot of people are interested in how the heck I do that. So
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm excited to get into that. So really quickly before I hand the floor over to you, just one last question, because we asked all the other speakers as well. Before you started learning what you know now, can you tell us very briefly about maybe one of the biggest struggles that you had in your life?
You want it briefly, huh? That's not my specialty. I probably should have told you that. Brief is not my jam. So yes, absolutely. Look, I have a lot of things to choose from, but one of the most difficult things I ever did was walked out of 7 years of prison, institutionalized, scared to death. And I went from a $10 an hour employee, that was having anxiety attacks, to a decade later, I was a vice president inside a $2 billion publicly traded company. And the most difficult thing about that was, again, harnessing all those negative emotions and getting over the self-doubt and the paralyzing fear that I couldn't do all the things that I said I was going to do, and B, that somebody was going to find out when I was doing them about my background. And that caused a lot of disease in my life. I ended up with stage 4 cancer. It caused a lot of heartache. It diminished the quality of my life and my wife's life. And it was very, very difficult. That wasn't brief, but there you have it. Okay, Daisha?
Wow. No, I love it, Kyle. That actually was brief. So thank you so much for that. So I'm going to go ahead and just start the transition video and then let you take over from the talk here, because I'm sure you have a lot of value to share with us here today. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, goodness. So I guess I apologize. Here we go. So as we were saying earlier, my name is Kyle Houston. I think I did a little bit on this on the intro, but I am a speaker, a coach, and a best-selling author of a book I'm very proud of called Patchwork Junkie. Before that, I was a highly successful sales executive out in Silicon Valley. And before that, I was a scared and frightened ex-convict that was hiding from his deepest, darkest secrets. So the reason I like to introduce that way is because I want everybody to be crystal clear that I understand on the deepest levels what it's like to be lost. I understand on the deepest levels what it's like to have to dig yourself up out of a hole that you think is insurmountable, and everybody has counted you out. And I absolutely understand on the deepest levels what it takes to survive. I am living proof that you can overcome any adversity, no matter where you're at. And that's what my life represents. The greatest accomplishment that I've ever achieved, and this one always shocks people, but the greatest accomplishment I've ever achieved is taking control of my own life. Without any of that, I never would have been able to come back from the insurmountable odds. I never would have been able to survive. I never would have been able to pull myself up out of some of this story that we're going to get into in a second. Now, the most difficult thing that I've ever accomplished was realizing that inside all that, I had a choice. I couldn't see at some points in my life that there was choice in all of these things. I could see that potentially I could gain some sort of control over the way I reacted, or I could gain some sort of control over the way I saw the world, but choice completely eluded me. So getting to that point took work, and it took heartache, and it took contemplation like I don't think most people would ever understand. And I want everybody that's listening to this to get it in their head that whatever it is that you're struggling with is happening for a reason. It's happening for a good reason. Whatever it is, I don't care. Whether it's self-destructive behavior, whether it's guilt, shame, doubt, impulses that you don't seem to be able to control. One day you're going to be on the other side of that, and you're going to realize that the strength to climb up and defeat that is going to be the competitive advantage that you've got over everybody else around you. And in some crazy way, you might just be thankful that it happened. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. A big part of my mission in my life is to change the way people see pain and to change the way people see struggle. See, in my life, I've had, I don't know if it's fortunate or misfortunate, but I've had this wide array of experiences in my life where I've been around everybody from billion-dollar VC firms to literally Pablo Escobar's right-hand man in prison. And the one thing, the one conclusion that I have come to after seeing everything that I've been through in my life is that if you have never climbed back up from some monumental mistake, if you have never battled a serious struggle, then what good are you? And I know it's hard to see it now, but someday you're going to see that incredible value in all this struggle. You're going to see how it shaped you, how it calloused your mind, how it made you capable and strong and unstoppable. And I hope to God you trust me. And if we could all just somehow see our struggles as life's initiation to happiness, then maybe we could all just start leaning into fear. Maybe we could start running into the fray and get to that point quicker. But for now, I just want everybody to know that you're not alone. I was once confused. I was once lonely, maybe like some of you. And eventually I created this human being that I couldn't even have imagined before all of this tragedy happened in my life. So at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, Kyle, great. You wrote a book, you hung out with a couple people, but what's so great about you that I should sit here and listen to what you have to say? Well, let me tell you a little story. At one point in my life, I was a young entrepreneur. This was in my mid-20s. And I seemed to have, at least in my mind, everything going for me. I had respect. I had employees. I had responsibility and money in my own house and assets and all these things that I thought were important back then. And somehow in some crazy twist of fate, I get wildly addicted to methamphetamine. And to kind of set the stage, I want everybody to understand that my life up to this point was by no means easy. I would never describe it that. I come from a broken home. My dad left when I was 3, yada, yada, yada. But things did come easy to me. I was a 4-year athlete. Sports seemed to come easy. Making money seemed to come easy. School seemed to come easy. And when I got addicted to this drug, I had no tools in my toolbox to understand how somebody could continue to spiral and break people's hearts and do things that they knew were wrong and not be able to quit. So I got to a point to where in order to sustain my addiction, because I was never going to run out, in order to do that, I taught myself a very dangerous and complex scientific process of making this drug. And initially, it was just to sustain my addiction, right? That was all it was for. But before you know it, a lot of people heard about it. And every biker, every drug addict, every criminal that was in the game was coming to me with more money, with more chemicals. And before you knew it, we had created this world where I was one of the biggest meth cooks in Kansas City. And before you knew it, I started using needles. And I told myself, okay, this is bad. At least I'm not out of drugs. And I'm only going to shoot every once in a while. I was only going to use a needle every once in a while. Well, then it became, I was only going to do it once a day. Then it became 2 or 3 times a day. And before you knew it, I was shooting up 7 to 8 times every single day. And I thought my only exit strategy was going to be death. I remember sitting in messy, dingy, dark back rooms, looking down at my arm and telling myself, praying to anything that would listen, to God, to whatever, that this would be the one that would kill me. And in my mind, the best thing that I could ever give my family and the best thing that I could ever give the world was to not be in it anymore. And that was the mindset of hopelessness. And I'm just going to tell you, that is one of the most dangerous mindsets you can ever have. For one reason, it's because it's not true. Again, I'm living proof of that. Nothing in life is hopeless. And for the other reason, if you frame your situation as something that you have no control over, then you're going to relinquish your free will. If you relinquish your free will, then you no longer own your life. And if you no longer own your life, you're going to be right where I was, which is, why go on and live if you don't own your life? And let me tell you, that's wrong, but that's where my mind was. So how did I shift my consciousness away from wanting to die to wanting to connect so deeply, to wanting to give so completely, to wanting to belong to something that was meaningful and impactful? Well, I would love to tell you that it was easy. I would love to tell you that it happened so quickly that one day I woke up, I walked behind a mule, got kicked in the head, and voila, I'm no longer an addict. But that's not the way it works. Life, fate, God, whatever you want to call it, had a different plan for me. And instead of dying, I got arrested one night and I was thrown into a cell and I was forced to detox and think and suffer tremendously. I had no friends coming to see me. I burned every single bridge I'd ever known, I'd ever built. And my own mother wasn't even willing to comfort me at that point. And oh, by the way, I just happened to be facing 30 years with no parole in some of the worst environments anyone can ever imagine. In the blink of an eye, I went from spiraling uncontrollably with drugs and danger and people that didn't care about me or have anything in common with me to lying on a cold metal slab with no distractions, coming to the grips of what I had done to my life. Look, one of the worst things that I've ever been sentenced to, and I've been sentenced to a lot, but one of the worst things was those first few weeks of me lying there with no distractions, trying to realize what I had done to people's lives, not just mine, but other people's. I had a son who I had neglected. I had a mother who was convinced I was dead because I was no longer talking to her. And I had a girlfriend who I was sure I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and I might as well have just dug her heart out with a rusty spoon. And the only sin, the only crime that any of them ever committed was the crime of believing in me. And that's difficult to understand. So at that point, days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and slowly my mind became clearer. The gravity of my actions, the seriousness of the trouble I was in, and this missing element, we'll go back to it, this missing element of choice over the last couple of years. I wrestled with the fact that in hindsight, I couldn't remember, I really couldn't, the last time that using meth had actually come with a decision. See, to me, it was as vital as breathing air back then. It had become this involuntary reaction to being alive. It was like blinking or breathing or pulling your hand away from a hot stove. It's not something you think about. It's just something you do. And that was what using drugs had become. I'd unequivocally relinquished the power to make decisions, and that was the end of it all. And here's the crazy thing. It had all been done unconsciously. I mean, it wasn't like I was blind to the fact that I was doing something wrong. I wasn't oblivious to the danger or the pain or the destruction of my life. I was just utterly lost to the concept that I actually had a decision inside any of this. My will belonged to an extremely powerful and deadly drug. The high school athlete, the entrepreneur, the clever boy who was going to take on the wide open space of the world had just handed it all over to something loveless and worthless and meaningless. And I couldn't remember how. Does any of this ring a bell to any of you? I just want to step back and try to associate some of this with your life. And I'm not talking about the drugs or the despair, but the hopelessness of waking up one day and asking, where am I in this equation? Look, this happens to everybody. You want to know, where are the choices? Where did you go? Why can't you stop or control yourself or live life with power or purpose? And I want to be crystal clear when I say this, and it's not the only time I say this. It's not abnormal. You're not alone. I'd love it if you got into your head that all of this happens, and whatever burden you are going through is for you to conquer. That's right. You're normal and fixable, and you do not hold exclusivity on whatever your bad behavior is. And that's important for people to get over. I thought that I was the only person in the world that had ever done this to their family. It felt like I was the center of the universe, and I was unforgivable, unlovable, unfixable. And that is the worst mindset you can be in. And I want everybody to entertain the idea that it's not true. And look, for those of you who hold shame and guilt or insecurity that you're never going to be whole or successful, let me just jump to the cool part of my story. Spoiler alert, I don't do the 30 years. Spoiler alert, I walk out of prison. I marry the woman of my dreams. I have the most beautiful children, and I live happily ever after. And not only did I get my life back, but I literally rose to the top of my game in the most competitive market in the country. And I'll tell you, some people see this as a miracle, but although I'm grateful, and although I know I owe it to God, I simply see this as a combination of decision, desire, and action. It's not out of reach for everybody. And a critical revelation around purpose and possibility, which is really important as well. But let's jump back into jail for a moment. Eventually, I found myself in a cell all by myself 23 hours out of every single day. I only got let out 1 hour a day to shower. Other than that, I was by myself. I was lonely. I was scared that I'm going to do 30 years behind bars and trying to figure out how something so dramatic and unthinkable could be happening in my life. I mean, just 2 years ago, I had all those things that we talked about earlier. I had what I thought was important, the money, the respect, the responsibility. And now at this point, I had nothing. You know what? To be honest, I had less than nothing. Inside that cell, with absolutely nothing more to do but read and contemplate, I did something that I hadn't done for a very long time. I reached out to God, and this wasn't to get out of trouble. This wasn't to remove the burden of my sins, but to simply give me something that looks like truth, because I was really confused. I wanted to know with every ounce of energy I had, what was the meaning of life? More importantly, what was the meaning of my life? Because it couldn't be this. Now, where life got really exciting for me was when I started to believe in purpose and untapped gifts, and realizing that I was in charge of my destiny, no matter where I ended up. Kind of like I'd been this powerless peasant, aimlessly walking through life, eating scraps off a lesser man's table, selling myself short. And one day I wake up and I saw this worthy king inside me. I saw this leader. I saw this amazing and talented human being who had gifts to bring to the world. And I started to dive into the idea that there was divinity within me with this unlimited amount of power. And I was going to get to co-create a world that was not only better for me, but it was better for everybody around me. In my mind, I had gone through all the heartache, all the pain, all the agony to get to that moment in that cell. I was being shaped and molded to catch a glimpse of what was truly possible in my life. And I couldn't see it at the time. And this is what we talked about earlier, but this was vital to transform and become the person that I am. This was vital to living the happiest, biggest life I could possibly live. See, I'd been thinking small my entire life, and now it was time to live on purpose. Think about it. How liberating would it be to go from seeing your life as uncontrollable to seeing it as having a specific gift to bring to the world? I mean, that's a radical shift for anybody, let alone a guy that was as rock bottom as I can ever imagine. So slowly I started to release all of this hate and this anger and deeply held beliefs that I was unlovable. Slowly I started to realize that I wasn't being judged by a higher being. And I started to entertain the idea that I was being admired and nurtured and, yes, even loved by something that understood me more than I was ever going to understand myself. I was Kyle Houston, and no matter where I ended up, I was going to remember that that meant something and that people were counting on me to pull myself up out of this. I had more to give, and the world was going to be a much better place because I and all my experience, all my wisdom was in it. And again, that was radical and uplifting and critical to my comeback. Suddenly, pulling myself up out of this impossible situation was more than just a thing I wanted to do. It was my contribution to the world. Simply put, it was my purpose to not only survive this situation, but to become wildly successful. And I'm going to tell you, that is gasoline on the fire for sure. Why? Well, that wasn't exactly clear at the time. It's still not exactly clear, and apparently not necessary. What was important is shifting the way I saw the way I saw the world and accepting that I had a responsibility to give something and to serve something greater than myself. Look, I don't care if you're agnostic or a Christian or a Buddhist or a Muslim or even atheist. None of that matters. You're still responsible to something greater than yourself. Now, maybe it's society, or maybe it's your family, or maybe it's a nameless, faceless person on the other side of the world, but get it in your head that it is your solemn responsibility to become who you were meant to be, and then just go after it. I mean, when you truly have that mindset, there's no way to fail. Before I go any further, I'm going to assure everybody that's listening to this that, and look, this is something that's universal inside everybody, not just you, including me, right? You are capable of so much more than you are ever going to give yourself credit for. And that statement is so important. I'm going to repeat it, okay? You are more capable than you will ever give yourself credit for. And this is something that I have had to put to test. This is something that I've constantly found out about myself. The things that are missing, and the reason we don't realize this, it's awareness, it's belief, and it's motivation. And let me tell you, my journey didn't just quit with one day I was let out, the guards showed up, they unlocked the door, and they said, walk on out, Kyle, you're free to go. Champagne poured from the heavens, the sun shone through the clouds, and I walked out and created this fantastic life. That's not the way it worked. There were lots of ups and downs. There were lots of trials and tribulations that shook the foundation of hope and faith and trust in ways that I hope my worst enemy never has to go through. But I'm going to tell you, that's where you find what you're made of. That's where you find out what you really want in life. And it's amazing how important the simple things are when you get into those situations. What I discovered in that cell with all that fear, what I discovered doing 7 years behind bars, was that I didn't care about money or Lambos or drugs or status. What I wanted was my opportunity to contribute. What I wanted was friends that would care when I wasn't around, that would care if I died. What I wanted was children and laughter and Christmas around trees. And I ached for this connection in every way that you can ever imagine. And I made a solemn vow to myself that if I ever got to walk out of this prison, there would be no more wasted time, and I would never, give up my power to choose to anything again. At this point, I was living in possibility. I had hunger, I had confidence, and I was full of purpose. And just to be clear, that's where superpowers are created. That's the makeup of literally every great comeback story in the history of mankind. So when I walked out of prison after 7 years, and at the age of 35 years old, I had a bulletproof belief that I was going after that life that I had dreamed of in that cell all by myself. And God forbid if you thought you were going to be somebody that stood in the way of it. But again, it was difficult. And the question I've got for all of you is, how do you see yourself inside your own story, inside your own struggles? Because this is important. Do you see yourself as a victim or out of control or absent of choices? Do you see yourself with destructive behavior? Do you see the self-destructive behavior as a thing that has a mind of its own? Do you see your impulses as forever controlling you, or do you think you can master your behavior? Even if you can't see it, do you hold tight to the idea that you have the power to at least take the control back someday? You have the power to decide. You have the power to say no. You have the power to pick yourself back up and get back in the game. And most people don't even understand that concept. One of the most radical shifts that ever happened to me were those aha moments where I started to truly see that I could decide in every single moment of my life. And look, I fall short of this all the time. There's no silver bullet. We don't all become perfect because we get awareness. But the fact that I know that I have a choice, the fact that I know that I could go back and do it all over again and make a better decision, is something that is extremely powerful and something I exercise most of the time. You get to decide how you feel, how you react, how you see what is happening. The emotion, the drive, the energy that you wrap around every single situation is all about perspective and the way you see the world. Let me tell you what I've discovered in life. Nothing worth going after. I know everybody hears this and they don't like hearing it, but it's true. Nothing worth going after is ever going to be easy. Finding the strength to change, to release, to shift the way you react is something that doesn't just happen with a single decision. And I wish it did. But although it doesn't happen with a single decision, it absolutely starts with a single decision. Making a powerful decision in your life, a radical shift in your behavior, is a series of decisions that are measured by your desired outcome. If you're not aware of the change you want, if you haven't committed to the outcome, if you haven't come to the conclusion that your future is completely in your hands, then you're not even at the starting line. And this is something that, again, everybody tries to skip that part. Wanting to do something isn't enough. Wanting to put the work in is where it needs to begin. So it's hard to make a lasting change. There's no doubt about it. Life isn't easy. And look, if anybody ever tells you it is, do yourself a huge favor and never take advice from them again. But I promise there's magic inside each and every one of you. There's something inside you kicking and screaming to get out. So the question becomes pretty clear. Are you ready to be the master of your own ship, where you create happiness and prosperity and fulfillment in your life? Or are you content living within the matrix, completely unaware and having somebody else or something else decide the outcome for you? Because you can get caught up on all the other decisions in your life, but if you don't make this one, all the hope, all the dreams, all the gifts, all the talents that you have will never be brought into the world. And this is not only a loss for you, but for all the people that you were meant to influence, all the people that you were meant to change and bring your gift to. And make no mistake about this, you are that important. So thank you very much. That's my speech, Daisha.
It's me. It's Naomi. Thank you so much.
Naomi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome speech. And once again, I want to thank you for doing this summit with us and being so honest and sharing your story and actually not holding back because it's important. Yes, go ahead.
No. The holding back thing, I stopped doing that about a year ago. But I do want to say this. I held back for 25 years of my life, and holding back was the worst thing that I ever did. Telling my story was one of the most liberating things that I did. So I thank you for inviting me. And I absolutely thank everybody for listening, because it makes me stronger every single time I get to share that. So it means a lot. When I say I'm honored to be here, it's not lip service. I mean it.
Well, and we're honored to have you. Thank you so much, Kyle. We appreciate it. And we will see you soon. And guys, how are you doing, warriors? I hope you guys have been listening and taking notes to everything that we have been saying. And I hope you guys have been paying attention to a couple of things, right? Because sometimes we have these feelings and we feel overwhelmed and we think that we're the only ones in the world going through something similar. As you have seen in these stories, we all face challenges and sometimes we don't see our way out. But know that there is a way out, and know that you have control of your life, and know that you can change, and that it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what mistakes you've made. I mean, look at this. Look at us. Every story you have heard had something in common. There was a point, there was a breaking point where everyone got, and they realized they had to make that change. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can always change, and you have everything that you need inside of you. And remember that sometimes in our biggest challenges lies our talent, lies our pot of gold. And the most important thing, if you've noticed from everyone else that spoke today, was that thinking and wanting is not enough. It needs to be followed by action. So I want you guys to take action. I want you guys to take notes. And I want you guys to be here tomorrow for part 2 of our summit. And we are going to end our summit today with our last performance. And for our performance, we have Mrs. Daisha Hanks. Hey, Daisha.
Hey, glad to be back. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, I can. Are you ready? You don't have to introduce yourself. We all know you. What are you going to be singing?
So I'm going to be singing an original song called Life Goes On. It kind of follows along with the same summit. You know, I mean, life happens, right? There's going to be struggles that you have to overcome, but life goes on. You just have to keep pushing forward and learn that it's a lesson. So,
yes, it is true. All right. Well, Daisha, I'm looking forward to hearing you. Guys, I will see you tomorrow.
All right, let's do this. Doors keep slamming as the tears rush down your face. You keep quiet. No, don't say a thing, 'cause you know it ain't worth the fight. He calls you stupid while you sit there and cry. But don't worry, life goes on. Yeah, you'll see, and you'll grow up and be everything that you wanted to be. You walk through those front doors for the very first time. You look around you, not knowing which way's right. You don't ask questions, 'cause the girl that used to shy, you show up late. But while they point and laugh out loud, but don't worry, life goes on. Yeah, you'll see, and you'll grow up and be everything that you wanted to be. As she lays there, taking her last breath, she looks at you. And remember what she said, don't you worry, life goes on, yeah, you'll see, and you'd better go up and be everything that you told me you would be. Cause you told me you would sing. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this amazing summit. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, make sure to reach out to either me and Naomi and join us tomorrow for part 2 of the Teen Warrior Summit. We'll be having 4 more speakers on with us. Have a wonderful day and bye for now.